In this episode, you'll discover what you focus on and obsess over may be the very thing that's causing your team members to look elsewhere for a better career opportunity. Ready to learn how to change it? Let's get into it.
Welcome to Why Business Teams Fail and How to Avoid It, a show helping small business owners build a radically engaged team that can run the business without you, so you can remove the stress from owning a business and enjoy the freedom you deserve. Now, here's your host, Rich Allen.
Today, you'll learn that focusing on what's going wrong in your business may be costing you big time, that most employees are starving for positive feedback and encouragement, and perhaps it's time to get a bell and start ringing it when someone on your team does something right. Here's my question for you this week. How good are you at catching people doing things right? Today, I want to discuss a topic that I believe may be the single most aggravating thing that I hear from team members when I ask them about their supervisor or manager. In fact, it may be the leading cause of many employees saying, "I quit," as they start updating their resume. Do I have your undivided attention yet? I sure hope so, because this is a big deal, especially in today's challenging hiring market. Unless you're different than most business owners and senior leaders, the real answer to the question, how good are you at catching people doing things right, is probably something like, I'm better at catching people doing things wrong than I am catching them doing things right. How do I know? Well, it's simple. I talk with a lot of team members, and they all tell me the same thing. No matter how good they are at their job, the majority of employees feel their immediate supervisor or direct line manager focuses way more on the things they get wrong than those things they do well. To make my point, let me share a few real-life examples. I've shared this one before, but it's too good to not share again. Several years ago, I got a call from the business owner of an ice cream shop to ask if I could help them with their business. As I usually do, I suggest we meet in person before starting any kind of coaching relationship. I find that meeting in person helps me to make sure there's mutual respect and trust that will be needed if there's going to be an effective coaching relationship. We decided to meet at his office at the ice cream shop, and I was excited to see how the business worked up close and in person. When I arrived, it became clear that his office was actually a desk that had a direct line of sight to the front counter where he could keep an eye on most everyone on his team. After a quick introduction, he shared that he was having a hard time keeping good employees and wanted some ideas on what he should do to find and keep better team members. As we began our discussion, he would raise his hand in a gesture to hold my thought as he reacted to something he saw that happened at the front counter. It was nearly impossible to have a conversation with him because about every 30 seconds, he interrupted our discussion and shouted to the front things like, "Kelly, don't make that customer wait. Take their order." And, "Jimmy, that's too much ice cream on that cone." And, "Where's John? He's supposed to be working the fountain drinks." And, "Why are you guys just standing around? Grab a broom and clean the place." This went on for at least 20 minutes while I tried to get a sense of the business. Then I asked the business owner, "How often do you compliment your team for doing a good job?" He looked at me with a puzzled look on his face, and I continued, "Perhaps you should stop barking orders and catching everyone doing things wrong, and focus more on building up your employees by catching them doing things right." Then I shared with him these recommendations. Reposition your desk so that you're not looking directly at the front counter. Stop criticizing everything that goes on and simply write down things that you think need to be addressed or changed. and get a bell and ring it when you catch someone doing things right. I told him I'd be back in a couple of weeks to see how things were going, and then we could decide whether we should work together or not. When I returned, the atmosphere was very different. His team members were smiling, they were having fun, the customers seemed to be enjoying the new upbeat energy, and the business owner was way less stressed out. He shared that everything was going very well and everyone in the business was having more fun as a result. It's amazing what can happen in a short period of time when you focus on what's going right rather than what's going wrong. Here's another example. I was meeting with a client recently, and as I usually do, I was asking about how the team was performing. We spent time discussing each team member one by one, and as we did, I made a tick mark on the left side of my notes for every comment that was positive and a tick mark on the right side of my notes for every comment that was negative. Without even realizing they were doing it, the negative comments outweighed the positive comments by a 4-to-1 margin. Said another way, of 10 comments about the performance of the individual team members, 8 were negative and only 2 were positive. I shared with my clients what I had recorded, and they were totally surprised. They had no clue that they were being so negative. It had just become a habit of focusing on what was going wrong rather than what was going right. They made the commitment to change the way they were thinking and engaging, and before you know it, their team was performing at a higher level because they were feeling supported, not criticized. Here's one last one. I was talking with an employee recently who shared a situation with me that honestly made me want to get in my car and confront their manager directly. This employee had recently been asked to facilitate a big conference for their company. The conference went very well, and as a result, they had received lots of positive feedback from those who attended, both from peers and senior leaders in the business. As this employee returned from the conference, they were feeling good, filled with self-confidence and energized with enthusiasm for the company. Their first meeting upon returning to the office was their weekly meeting with their direct manager. They went into the meeting fully expecting their manager to share some of the positive messages with them. But rather than spending any time talking about the conference and their key role in its success, their manager instead focused on those things that they felt were not going well and needed to be fixed. The manager took the wind out of their sails and essentially delivered a gut punch at the very time that their peers were singing their praises. When I asked, "So what are you going to do?" their immediate response was, "I'm going to leave and go to work for someone who appreciates my skills, talents, and efforts." Here's the worst part of the situation. Aside from the beating their self-esteem had taken, the senior leaders of this company are blind to the fact that one of their managers was driving away their best talent out of the business. As a business coach, this drives me crazy. Great talent is hard to find, and when you have great talent, the last thing you want is for them to be discounted and disenfranchised from the business. But sadly, too many supervisors and direct line managers spend more time trying to fix things that go wrong than they do applauding the things that go right. My sincere hope is that I'm not talking directly to you, but rather simply making you aware of perhaps the most debilitating behavior that anyone in a supervisory or managerial position can do to the employees in the business. If I am talking to you, then this is your wake-up call. To change the focus before your best people disengage and start packing their bags to go look for a better boss. Remember, employees don't quit companies, they quit their bosses. And I would suggest that they quit their bosses mainly because their boss doesn't appreciate the good they do, and far too often they focus on the things that go wrong. Don't believe me? Here's a challenge for you. Go ask your team members. Ask them if they think you praise them more than you find fault with them. Even if they don't answer you directly, you'll be able to tell by the enthusiasm with which they answer the question. If they hesitate at all before answering, you'll know what the true answer is. Then you can make yourself a sticky note that says, "Catch people doing things right," and stick it beside your computer monitor. Whatever you do, don't dismiss this one too quickly. Far too often as managers and business owners, we are blind to the good and laser focused on the bad. For the sake of building a high-performing team, you've got to adjust your eyesight and your words. As we wrap up today's podcast, let me leave you with these simple thoughts on how to catch people doing things right in your business. Number one, change what you look for, from things that are going wrong to things that are going right. Number two, try to find something good to comment on every day. And number three, remember that most employees quit their boss, not their job. Don't give them a reason to quit on you. If you'd like some additional support in this area or want to tap into our free resources, simply go to my website, tourtoprofit.com. You'll find everything you need there. Thanks for joining me today. Be sure to tune in next week when we're going to discuss common hiring mistakes you must avoid. You won't want to miss it. Now, go make it a great week, and whatever you do, ride hard.
Thank you for listening to Why Business Teams Fail and How to Avoid It. Make sure to like, subscribe, and tell your friends so you don't ever miss an episode. Now go make it a great week, and whatever you do, ride hard.